occur. On Wall Street, the Dow is ahead 290 points and the Nasdaq up 61. More on these stories at townhall.com.
We're entering a time of increasing hostility against people of faith, a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral and physical and financial basis, unlike any other time in our lifetime. I'm Lance Wallnau, Christian author, evangelical leader, here to remind you that you have to take action to protect and steward what God has given you. For example, record high inflation is going to continue to eat away at the dollar, and the savings of your retirement account is in danger. Fortunately, God does provide a way. To protect your retirement, I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now, to see how it works, just text the word FAITH to 989898. That'll give you access to a free info kit on gold IRAs. There are no strings attached, so text FAITH, F-A-I-T-H, to 989898 right now, and I pray your family is blessed with peace of mind because you took action.
A 16-year-old student involved in a fight at a Northern California high school fatally stabbed on Wednesday inside a classroom full of students. Santa Rosa police say another student also suffered a stab wound, and the suspect, a 15-year-old freshman, is in custody. A federal judge has ordered Starbucks to reinstate 7 fired workers. That's after finding that the company violated labor laws hundreds of times during a unionization campaign in Buffalo, New York.
The decision was issued by Administrative Law Judge Michael Rosas of the National Labor Relations Board. The order requires Starbucks interim CEO Howard Schultz to read a statement of employees' rights and distribute a recording to all of Starbucks U.S. employees. Starbucks says the ruling is inappropriate and is considering its legal options.
Correspondent Jeremy House. Breaking news at townhall.com. Washington, D.C.'s cherry blossoms are coming early this year. Washington correspondent Ed Donahue.
The trees are apparently confused about the changing climate.
Due to the warmer than average temperatures, the trees never reached their winter dormancy, which is the starting point for calculating when the blooms will emerge.
Jeff Reinbold with the National Park Service says the 3,700 cherry blossom trees in the city are expected to reach peak bloom earlier than expected, between March 22nd and 25th. The city has experienced dramatic temperature swings. It hit 81 degrees one day last week. 2 days later, it snowed.
Our natural resource manager likened the trees this year, our indicator tree, to a teenager. There's a lot going on there right now.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Another check on Wall Street. The Dow is up 311 points. The S&P 500 adding 20. More on these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your first alert forecast. Mostly sunny this afternoon with a high of 55. Rain moves in this evening. It will be heavy overnight. It gets windy as well as we drop to 42 degrees by tomorrow morning. And then on Friday, heavy rain continues to be likely. Temperatures falling during the day, 38 degrees during the afternoon. Also quite windy with wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by The Dental Link. Call Dr. Alan Link today, 314-794-6464 to schedule your free consultation. Offices in Baldwin and Melville, 314-794-6464. Tony Colombo.
Libertarianism is all about individual liberty.
Katie Fitzpatrick.
Oh, good for you.
Colombo and Katie on News Talk STL.
Time to rise has been engaged. We're better best to rearrange. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song. Your finest hour. Your finest hour.
Hello and welcome to Thursday afternoon here on Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. I'm Tony Colombo. Of course, my partner is Katie Fitzpatrick. And if you are watching on the cameras, you will see that we are joined by a guest right out of the gate here today on the show. The Secretary of State for the state of Missouri, Secretary Jay Ashcroft, is here with us. Great to see you, Mr. Secretary. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Doing well. Doing very well.
Great to see you. We got a jam-packed show for you today. We in about an hour from now, we are going to get our weekly dose of common sense financial advice from JT from Pocket Watching with JT. And in about a half an hour, at about 2:40 this afternoon, we are going to get the liberal perspective on a lot of the things that are happening here locally, particularly some of the drama surrounding the city of St. Louis and Kimberly Gardner and Mayor Tashara Jones. We're going to talk to America's favorite liberal, our buddy Keith Antone, and get the other side of the aisle's thoughts on some of these things that are happening in our area. But as I mentioned, Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft here to start the show with us. And there's that drama that has put the St. Louis area and the state of Missouri in the national spotlight with this terrible tragedy that happened in our area, and all of the scrutiny, well-deserved in my opinion, on Kim Gardner. We have the legislative session that we're right smack dab in the middle of. There's a lot going on in the state of Missouri. So what's the latest with your office and the things that you're focused on right now?
Well, first and foremost, I am so thankful that the legislature is looking at what's happening in the city of St. Louis and in the St. Louis region. You know, now is not the time for politics, when people are getting shot in broad daylight, when people are losing their lives, when people are scared to leave their houses. We need to make changes. As St. Louis does better, the state does better. And we, the people, need to come together and make sure that criminals are scared instead of the people that live in the area. And I'm really thankful to have worked hard on legislation with that. I hope it'll get done. But that's just something we've got to deal with, is make sure that every person – when I opened up the Missouri House of Representatives, I said no one in Missouri should have to leave their neighborhood or move to feel safe. Right now, we have a ton of people that don't feel safe. That's wrong. It's past time we fix that.
Just went through it. I am a born and raised North County, Florissant, Hazelwood.
Yeah.
My dad graduated from Hazelwood High School, Hazelwood Central. I graduated from Hazelwood Central. My oldest daughter graduated from Hazelwood West. But we got to the point, just last year, we moved to St. Charles County because I couldn't raise my youngest, who was just starting his educational career. I just felt like we weren't doing right by our family to stay in the area. And that's bad. Just because people think they can go to other places, as you just said, I think it's a powerful statement. You can't, if we give up on our major cities, that's bad for the state across the board.
Look, a foundational responsibility of government is to provide for safety for the citizenry. Every elected official in this state should be calling for change in St. Louis City so that people can be safe enough to make their own decisions and be the best they can be. Until they feel safe to make decisions. I mean, we have people in the city of St. Louis that are scared to walk out their front door.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we're downtown, and it's a scary notion being down here and driving in, and to know that this execution-style shooting happened a couple of blocks away from us is terrifying.
I thought it was a joke at first.
Yes.
I couldn't believe someone would joke about that, but I couldn't believe that's how far the, quote, leadership of St. Louis City, and I put it in quotes because that's not leadership, has let this city go.
I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary. Whenever we're talking about the removal of Kim Gardner, though, do you think that that's a possibility?
I think it is a possibility. I applaud what the Attorney General is doing. I'm not sure that he'll be able to get her removed through the quo warranto writ. That's an extraordinary writ. It's a very high bar to meet. But even if he's not successful, and thank him for trying, there's legislation moving that'll make a difference. And you can say all you want about we want to have local control. Kim Gardner has lost control. The locals, the people, have lost control, and they are scared and being preyed upon by the criminal element. We get local control when we have law enforcement and prosecutors that will protect the people of this state and this city.
Yeah, and what can we do as citizens I mean, we talk about the importance of voting, and you got to make your voice heard, but sometimes it just feels like you're yelling into an empty void. What can we do?
We need to talk to our friends. Our enemies aren't going to listen to us. We need to talk to our friends. We need to talk to our neighbors. We need to actually research candidates if we can, and most people can't because they're raising kids, raising families, working one or more jobs. We need to get down to Jefferson City. Emails don't do it. Phone calls don't do it. Write letters. We need legislators. We need every elected official to know that the low bar they have to meet is over with. We're going to expect more. And especially when we go into the voting booth going forward, we're going to require more or they won't get our vote.
This is one of the reasons that I wanted to have Keith Antone on today, and it's kind of ironic that we're having this conversation with the Secretary of State on the same day that we're going to talk to Keith Antone, who is a very proud St. Louis Democrat. He's a very proud St. Louis liberal. However, I know him pretty well, and I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I do know that he is a Democrat. I know there's a lot of these Democrats that support the police and cherishes his Second Amendment rights. There are plenty of Democrats, people that are on the other side of the aisle. Like you said, there can still be our friends. They're not just because they have a different letter behind their name, they're still our friends. Those are the people that that need to be joined up, that we need to get together with everybody and have our voices heard.
Missouri Democrats are not like Washington, D.C. Democrats.
Amen.
The vast majority of Democrats and Republicans in Missouri want the best for the people of this city and this state. They have slightly different opinions, or vastly different opinions at times, on how to get there. But they want the best for the people, especially of St. Louis City. Anybody that's thinking has to realize that what's going on in St. Louis has failed. Even Chicago realized it failed when they refused to send Lori Lightfoot on to continue to be mayor. We cannot have St. Louis following Chicago. We've got to be better.
What a great point. So I know that your office doesn't directly work with the legislative session and the senators and congressmen and women that are currently working on various laws. But what is happening in the state of Missouri that you are the most interested in, and maybe your office is a part of?
Well, actually, we're probably different than any other statewide. We actually do work with legislators. We write legislation. We wrote truth in sentencing legislation to make sure that criminals that would just continue to offend would stay in jail and actually do what they were sentenced to. We wrote legislation there that would actually encourage individuals that haven't become hardened criminals yet to be reformed, to get skills, to get cleaned of their drug use before they got out so they could be productive members. We wrote legislation to stop the Chinese from taking over land ownership in this state and prohibit them from buying any more, make sure that Missourians and Americans are in charge of that because food security is national security. We've been fighting back against some of the filth that we're finding in our libraries, making sure that parents are in charge of what their kids see. If a parent wants to give the kid something, that's okay, but we shouldn't have a librarian that's giving a child something that the parents wouldn't agree with. We've been working hard on ESG to make sure that when someone's giving you investment advice, if they're lying to you and saying this is the best rate of return, but they're really trying to push a social agenda, we're going to come after them with a big old hammer. And, of course, I'm always pushing a constitutional amendment to say no more tax increases without a vote of the people and not a dime of state money spent unless the legislature appropriates it.
You think we will actually see legislation that says that this session or anytime soon? Or
we might see it filed, but it's going to be awfully hard to see it pushed.
Yeah.
We need the people of the state to rise up and say, we're supposed to be in charge. We want to control the pocketbook.
My bad. Mr. Secretary, can I talk to you about...
Lack of sleep from a newborn.
It's okay. I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm walking in a dreamland. Can I talk to you about the Washington University Trans Center that is one of the biggest issues happening right now in St. Louis? What are your thoughts? Can you share those thoughts?
It's an abomination. Look, if you are an adult and you want to spend your own money and do that sort of thing, and it's in your living room, that's your call. I believe that people have the right to make their own decisions. I just don't want to have to pay for it and don't parade it around in my living room. But for a child, for fifth, fourth, third graders to be put on these drugs. We have no idea what the long-term consequences are of some of the drugs. Some of them we know are essentially chemically castrating the kids. This should be outlawed. It should never be allowed to happen. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Greens, we got to stand up for the kids.
You got to be 18 to get a tattoo. I mean, doesn't that say it all? You got to be 18 years old before you have the responsibility of making a permanent change with ink on your skin, and yet we're letting
You can't buy cigarettes,
children,
but you can inject all sorts of chemicals that will change you forever and are irreversible. Where is the evil that says that's right? Where is the evil that says I'm going to make money off of what this is going to do to kids? It's an abomination.
Missouri Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft in studio with us, and I will say that, and I know this is you just touched on it, and I know it's one of the things that you and your office are particularly working on is going back to parental rights. If there's one sort of silver lining maybe that's come out of this progressive push to take over schools and to put in things like CRT and all of these other, taking power away from the parents, it's that parents have woken up, I think, that they are more engaged now or
Wouldn't call them woke.
no, but awake maybe, like paying. I think that parents have realized, and they had to learn a hard lesson to get to this level. They have realized that they can't just necessarily trust the schools and teachers and school districts to have their kids' best interest at heart. And now, more than I can remember, at least in the last several years, parents are watching and engaged.
And we've got to keep them engaged. Look, our government is too important to let the politicians be in control of it. We, the people, need to be in charge of it. I hate to say there's something good that came out of COVID, but when we were sending kids out of schools, when the state of Missouri was paying schools more to go virtual than to keep the kids there, and they did do that, parents realized what was going on. And we need those parents to continue to be involved because that's how we're going to get changes. And that's how we're going to get common sense and do what's good for the people, not the lobbyists and the career politicians.
Do you feel like that message is breaking through? Do you feel like there's more people politically engaged, whether it be with schools, just across the board? People are
I do, but we've got to continue that. And we've got to help people get involved. We've got to make it easier for them to know what's going on in government. Government hides what it does. They try to make it hard to know how your representative or your senator voted and how they voted when it mattered versus how they voted for show when it didn't matter. But we need the people to wake up and be involved. That's the only way to save our country.
I know also another thing that you have worked very hard on as Secretary of State is voter integrity and election integrity and safety. And obviously we're a long way away still from the 2024 elections, but we're at least on the presidential level, we're already in the middle of that season. Can you just kind of give us an update on where we're at in the state of Missouri as far as protecting voter rights?
Yeah, I would say, the best thing I'd say, Heritage Action now says that Missouri is in the top 3 for protecting their elections. I look at it as we want to have accessible, we want to have secure, and we want to have credible elections. I have secretaries of state around the country that talk to me about how they can make changes. They don't necessarily agree, but they're coming to Missouri because Missouri's leading on that. We're still looking at how we can do better with audits, how we can do better with residency requirements so we know where someone should be registered and they're only registered in one place or in one state. We're also looking at reducing the number of absentee ballots and making sure people are going in person so they're not relying on the post office. They know their vote will count.
So I can't believe it, but it's spring. It's March. We're about to go into a new season, and it's it feels like we're getting out of the doldrums of winter. So and right in the middle of this legislative session, so a lot of stuff happening in the state of Missouri. For you and your office specifically, what's the next few months look like? What's your focus?
Well, we don't run local elections in the same way that we help election authorities with statewide elections, although they run those also. But we're there to help them with that. We're doing a lot of work preparing actually for next year's elections. We're doing a lot of work to prepare for potential potential initiative petitions that will be getting in next year so that we can deal with those quickly and we can deal with those accurately. We're still pushing all this legislation, some of which I talked about earlier, against ESG, protecting our kids in libraries. I've been really working hard on some of the legislation that's being passed to make sure there's a private right of action. So if parents see that their child's rights, say at school or elsewhere, have been violated, they can get a lawyer to help protect those. So we're always about how do we protect the people of the state. I'll get out more. I've got about 90 school districts that have asked me to come and visit, so I need to get out to them. Just getting out and doing the best I can for the people of the state.
Yeah, and I think that is so important, just to talk to people, to hear what the citizens of the state, and listen to what they have, their concerns and their issues, and be able to act on them.
You know, there are a lot of people in Jefferson City. There's a bubble, I would say, from Jefferson City to Columbia. And they think the real world is that area. But there's so much more to Missouri. That's why I love traveling to every county in the state every year and meeting people where they are. And sometimes I get a great idea from that I might claim as my own. Other times they walk up to me and say, hey, what are you idiots doing up in Jeff City? Have you thought about this? But that's what governance is supposed to be about. Citizen legislators, citizen politicians, listening to the people and making differences that increase the opportunities for success for every Missourian.
Well, I love that whenever you're in St. Louis, of course, you're invited to come in here. Remember, Colombo and Katie is on in the afternoon. No need to get here in the morning for Vic Porcelli.
This is my favorite radio show in the afternoon.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Okay, how's that?
I'll take
with
it.
Italians.
I'll take it. Yeah, there you go. I'll take it. In the meantime, before we get another chance to talk to you, if people do want to reach out to your office and see what you're working on or communicate their concerns to you, what are the best ways to do that?
Website, sos.mo.gov. You can reach out to us through that. Also has all sorts of contact information on it. On Twitter, we're at Missouri SOS. Please, we want to hear from you. We work for the people of the state.
That is the Secretary of State of the state of Missouri, Jay Ashcroft. Thank you so much for coming in here this afternoon. It's great to see you, and look forward to talking to you again very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That is Jay Ashcroft, Secretary of State of Missouri. In studio here, we got lots to talk about. As I mentioned, looking forward to this conversation with Keith Antone, the man that I call America's favorite liberal. I want to get his thoughts, sort of the other side of the aisle, on some of these issues that we were just talking to the Secretary about that are facing our area. Also, lots to get in here. The president has made another ridiculous statement that are 2 days in a row now that people are reacting to. We'll get into that conversation and more as we go through the afternoon here on Colombo and Katie. You're listening to 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
If you find yourself feeling out of place in the world, it's comforting to know conservative values haven't been abandoned everywhere.
But I'm not going to turn my dial off for you guys. I really like this channel.
This is News Talk STL. Welcome home.
What if everything you thought and believed to be true about owning and buying your home turned out to be wrong?
Straightforward, objective advice on the right way to make the most out of every dollar you put into your home.
We're the only country that has one of those. Most other countries, considering like Canada, the UK, they don't have long-term fixed-rate mortgages like that. They're all variable-rate mortgages.
HomeWise with Michael Midget, Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
If you believe Brandon and the supply chain issues are still in crisis, or even if you don't, hurry into Southern Armory, your Second Amendment headquarters, for the best selection of firearms, suppressors, holsters, ammunition, pepper spray, and knives. Browse through our constantly changing inventory, order something special, or have us repair or modify that firearm that you've been putting off. Try our firearms training simulator. See the demo video on our website. Come into Southern Armory, 9901 Watson Road, 1 mile east of 270 and 44, at southernarmory.com. That's southernarmory.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Welcome home to St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
Democrats do what they do. We choose truth over facts.
News, analysis, and opinion.
The East Palestine train derailment.
President Donald Trump visiting with officials and people here today.
The Biden administration has taken away the basic right to apply for asylum if you get to the U.S. border.
Today's decision by Russia to suspend its participation in the New START treaty.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
It's Thursday, and at 3:45, we'll have Dr. Randy Tobler, and at 4:25, Dakota Wood from the Heritage Foundation.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 3:30 on News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Great conversation there with Jay Ashcroft, Secretary of State of the state of Missouri. He gets fired up, and it fires me up.
Mm-hmm.
He's. I'll tell you what. You don't have to agree with everything he says, but to say that he's not out there doing what he can, what he thinks is right, that he's not out there working.
We need that energy.
Can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can disagree with policies and things like that, but he's out there making his case,
pushing.
Yeah, he's out there pushing. That is exactly right. So I was going to sort of revisit what Joe Biden said yesterday about the nurse. We were so caught up in the ridiculousness and the weird grossness of the statement that something went right by me. Something that I think is important that I have not heard anybody else talk about. But before we get to that, I have to address the other dumb thing. This wasn't even dumb. This is just insulting. Did you see the Biden clip today where he was laughing about?
Yes, I did.
The
drugs.
The mom who was testifying in front of Congress, who had two sons pass away from fentanyl poisoning. They passed away on the same day, at the same time, doing these drugs together. And fentanyl being, the drugs are already, opiates and all that, extremely dangerous. I've talked about it a bunch. If you don't know, I have history of addiction with opiates. And what is interesting, I've never even talked about this yet. Right now, this time of year, February into March in 2013 is when I was going to my treatment program. So it's been 10 years exactly.
That is crazy.
Exactly.
Great accomplishment.
10 years exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to get all over dramatic and sappy about this, but when Joe Biden makes a flippant comment about two kids who died and says, well, and by the way, the fentanyl that killed them came over during my predecessor's administration. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting and it's insulting. And as an addict, it's personally insulting to me, let alone that mother that has to hear the president cackle about that situation.
And blame we're not here to blame the previous administration. We're not here to even talk about the old habits of what happened at the border when he was president. We're here to solve an issue.
Hello.
And when you hear a mother crying and pleading for something to happen, I think she even goes along to say, 100,000 parents lose their kids to fentanyl and to drugs every single year. We're not here to play the blame game. We just need the solution.
You're exactly right. And if you do want to get petty and play the blame game, Mr. Biden, the fentanyl is coming across the southern border.
Yes.
And the southern border is empirically, this is not an opinion, statistically is worse off now than it was under Donald Trump. There are more illegal immigrants coming in. There's more drugs coming in. There's more guns coming in. There are more things illegally coming into this country, whether it be people or products or items or whatever. There's more things coming in illegally through the southern border under Joe Biden than under Donald Trump. So careful when you start, if you do want to play the blame game, if you're Joe Biden or a part of the Joe Biden administration, because you're going to lose on that one.
You got open borders.
You're going to lose on that one big time. And flip test it. Flip test this one all day long. Donald Trump makes some kind of flippant joke about two people who overdosed or died because of poisoning from fentanyl and laughs. Can you imagine the media's reaction? Can you imagine the Democrats' reaction? And for it to just be one of those things with Joe, oh, it's okay because it's Joe Biden.
But why did he do it?
Disgusting and wrong.
But why? I mean, why did he do it?
Because he was making a point about how dumb Marjorie Taylor Greene. He made it all about Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was the one who was the congresswoman who was asking the questions when the mom had her big moment, her big outburst. It was during a conversation with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right.
So Joe Biden is like, if you watch the whole clip, it's like, that Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's something, isn't she? Well, the world needs more of her.
Not funny.
By the way, when the fentanyl came over that killed those kids, it was under the previous administration. Like, listen, I'm not kidding. As somebody who has suffered through that, I wanted to punch him in his face.
I bet.
When he's like, I hate it when people say, like, I thought it was so stupid when Robert De Niro was like, I'd like to punch Donald Trump in his face. But that one hits awfully close to home to be laughed at about something like that, mocked about something like that. Like, it's not a good look.
And I mean,
Mr.
whenever we talk about these sensitive issues and we look to leadership to say, like, what are we going to do about this? How are we going to resolve this issue? It's never a good political strategy. I mean, it's not decent as a human being to make light of drugs killing kids, but it's surely not a good political strategy either. You're not gaining any points by getting on a podium and laughing off or kind of brushing off the fact that two young boys lost their lives. Their mother was crying on a stand, and it doesn't matter who was questioning her, Republican or Democrat. If you hear that story and you're our leader, don't brush it off.
Yeah.
Take it seriously.
And if you think it was just, if you think that I'm overdoing it or anybody that's complaining about it is overdoing it, just think about what would happen if Donald Trump would have said it.
Absolutely.
That's all. That's all you have to do. Do you think everybody would be going, oh, come on, you're overdoing it. You're overthinking it. No, it would be, oh, he can't do that. Oh, my God, it's so. So there's that, which I didn't even know we were going to do that one today. I was actually a little bit angry with myself after the show yesterday because we were all over this nurse story.
The breath.
And breathing in my nostril to get me moving. But we pointed out yesterday how at the beginning of that quote, he says, I had a nurse named Pearl Nelson in the military. Yep. Making the proposition that he was in the military, which he wasn't. And we pointed this out, so I'm glad we did that. But what I was mad at myself about, because we were focused on the grossness
of the story.
About a nurse breathing on the president and her human touch and breathing in my nostrils to get me moving. That I didn't think until after the show about how big of a deal it truly is that he said that he made the assumption that he was in the military. That is a federal offense. There is something called stolen valor. It is a federal law. You cannot pretend to be...
Portray an officer.
Portray yourself as somebody who is serving or has served as a veteran if you didn't. It is literally a federal law.
And that goes all the way to
called
saying
stolen valor.
So that goes all the way to saying I was in the military.
If you can, so I wrote it down. It's punishable by fine or up to 1 year in prison to any individual who makes fraudulent claims of military service with the intent to obtain money, property, or other tangible benefits. I would make the argument that the president saying that he was in the military would give him a tangible benefit because it would get him support and votes that he otherwise might not have. So if you make the false claim that you are in the service or were in the service and it can be proved that you did that for tangible benefit, that is a federal offense.
Would he say
it's called stolen valor, and it's a big deal. Like, there are groups.
That's crazy.
There's a whole community on social media of veterans that expose people like that are setting up charity events or wearing uniforms and like standing on street corners in military uniforms asking for money and taking people and they bust and expose these people because they're not actual veterans. And I mean, there's a whole community that like tries to expose and stop people for doing that, and they have the law on their side. It's the Stolen Valor Act, and it's federal law. You cannot falsely claim to be with the military. And look, again, you could say, oh, you're overdoing it. This is the president of the United States.
Yeah.
He is not allowed to get on stage, tell a weird, gross story about a nurse breathing on him, and also make it sound like he was serving in the military and was some wounded soldier laying in the bed in Walter Reed while this was happening. Come on, people. Like, we've got to put a stop to this. He's out of control.
He is.
He was raised by Puerto Ricans. He went to the black church after Catholic Mass. He drove a truck. The
tall tales of Joe Biden.
I mean, he got arrested. He marched in the civil rights movement. He got arrested marching for civil rights with Nelson Mandela. None of these things happened. When do we stop going, oh, it's just creepy old, weird old Joe, and say, you cannot be president and do this.
So my only thing that I would think that he would be able to kind of say and get away with it would be, I don't know what he would say as the political gain. You know how you, like, if he's pretending to be, the tangible benefit.
So let's say to your point, let's say you can't really prove that it's the technical definition of stolen valor and he didn't break the law. He's still claiming, he's still making it sound like he served when he didn't. Yeah. And that either is stolen valor or it's real close. Yeah. So either way, it's unacceptable from the president. And this idea of just like, oh, is Joe doing it again? Like, when do we say no?
It's not goofy old Joe.
When do we say
it's
no?
It's a pathological liar.
Even if it is goofy old Joe, when do we just say not acceptable? Yeah. Not like, listen, we listen to the show. We don't, neither Katie or I are big Donald Trump supporters or big Donald Trump backers. But for 4 years, we heard about how Donald Trump didn't rise to the level of you have to be, you're on a certain pedestal. You have to rise to a certain level if you're going to be president. You have to hold yourself to a different standard. Okay. There was a lot of people that support Donald Trump that say, what? You don't have, he's down. They elected him as he is. This is who the person is. But those same people that said that criticized Donald Trump or others for not holding themselves to a higher standard or being presidential, you don't get to just go, oh, that's just Joe being Joe.
No.
Pretending like he was in the military, lying about going to black churches, lying about being raised by Puerto Ricans, lying about driving a truck when he's talking to truck drivers, lying about marching in the civil rights movement when he's talking in a black community, lying about getting arrested marching with Nelson Mandela, lying about hiking through the Himalayas with the president of China. Like, no. No. If Donald Trump was supposed to hold himself to a higher standard, then Joe Biden has to hold himself to a higher standard, and he ain't.
And he also can't get a pass for saying racist remarks because he's a Democrat. And he has gotten a free pass on that so much because he's a Democrat.
Such a great point. And I wish that I would have made it. I wish I would have caught it yesterday, but I was just so grossed out by the idea of Nurse Pearl blowing in the president's nostrils to get a human reaction from him that I didn't think of the stolen valor aspect of it until right after the show. I almost barged in here and said, "Put me back on."
She gave her
got a point
the
to
pillow
make.
too. Her
From
own
home.
personal pillow.
From home. It really is. It really is. I mean, if you want to say one positive thing about it, it's a good chapter 1 to like an adult novel. I was a wounded veteran in Walter Reed Hospital.
My clothes were
and
torn.
Pearl Nelson came in and breathed in my nostrils, and it was the beginning of a torrid affair. Oh, it made me want to puke everywhere. Okay, very much looking forward to this next conversation. America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone, is going to join us in just a moment. As I mentioned when we were talking to the Secretary of State a few minutes ago, Keith is a dyed-in-the-wool St. Louis Democrat. But I don't think that means, and we'll find out in a minute, but I don't think that means that he is going to defend Kimberly Gardner. I think that you'll be surprised at the way that many Democrats feel about what's happening in the city of St. Louis. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're right. We'll all find out together when we talk to Keith Antone in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
You're listening to Colombo and Katie. Follow Tony Colombo on Twitter at Tony Colombo Talk.
Hey, it's Katie, reminding you to subscribe to our show podcast so you never miss anything that happens here at News Talk STL. Get our podcasts every day on the show pages at newstalkstl.com, or just subscribe to your favorite shows on Spotify, Apple, Google, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your podcasts.
If you need to raise big money fast, there's no better way to do so in the St. Louis area than with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. TJ's Pizza Fundraising. You've probably done them before because they've been in business in the St. Louis area for over 30 years. They've raised their customers tens of millions of dollars in that time. And while they've certainly worked very hard, but it's also been pretty simple because they stick to 3 basic principles: great customer service, providing huge profit margins, and then the number one thing is having great products. People love TJ's Pizza. They love the pies and the cookie and the cookie dough and everything else that you can get with a TJ's Pizza fundraiser. And it makes it easier for you to raise money than when you're selling crappy wrapping paper or something else that somebody doesn't need. Not only that, but they have also evolved over the years to give you options. There's the traditional fundraising, there's pop-up fundraising, there's online fundraising, there's all different tools that you can take advantage of to make sure that you are raising the funds that your goal, you're meeting your goal with funds and in the timeline that you are looking for as well. So if you need to raise money for your organization, a school, a church, a kid's sports team, or a dance club, or whatever it may be, get started now. Raise money now at tjspizza.com.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Are you wanting to improve the look and efficiency of your home? Well, one of the best and easiest ways you can do that, get some new windows. Window World, simply the best for less. You can give them a call today at 314-993-1800. Over 20 years in the business in the St. Louis area, over 70,000 satisfied customers. That's because Window World uses double strength glass, gives it a strength not commonly used in replacement windows. They've got the Good Housekeeping seal of approval. They've got 18 months, same as cash financing. You can get them today. 314-993-1800, windowworld.com. That's windowworld.com.
The news and talk.
Thank you for welcoming back to Poland.
That matters to St. Louis.
Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia. President Putin chose this war.
This is 101.9 and 94.1. What's happening in News Talk STL.
Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. As I mentioned, very much looking forward to talking to our next guest, my old friend who it's been way too long since we've had America's favorite liberal on Colombo and Katie, Democratic strategist, former radio talk show host, Keith Antone is with us. Keith, my friend, how are you?
I am doing well, Colombo. Hi, Katie. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
So I wish that we had more lighter topics, more fun things to talk about. But one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on is obviously you're somebody who has, and I will say this, we don't agree on politics very often, although we do agree on more than I think people would realize. I know that you are out there working to try to make St. Louis a better place. It doesn't matter what party you're with. I could disagree with some of the ideas that you may have, but I truly believe that you and many others in the Democratic Party are wanting to make St. Louis a better place. And when we have a tragedy like what has happened here. And, this situation with this volleyball player that has brought this to the national spotlight, as you know, Keith, is not a one-off thing. We are struggling in this area. This is the story that sort of made it national news. But we've been struggling with safety and crime in the city of St. Louis for a long time. And I just wanted to get you on here to talk about your thoughts on St. Louis leadership and, what message needs to be sent and what can be done to try to make our city a safer one and people can come be a part of.
Well, let me first say that the views and opinions of Keith Antone are strictly those of,
yes, sir.
Of Keith Antone.
Yes,
okay?
sir. Yes, sir.
And you said a whole lot, so I'm going to try to start with, first of all, let's start with the unfortunate tragedy that happened with the volleyball player from Tennessee and her family visiting of St. Louis. Tony, I wake up every morning and I see something that's going on in downtown St. Louis. And the first call I make is to my oldest son, who he and his girlfriend live downtown St. Louis. When I hear about someone in his age group being shot or being carjacked, we've got some serious issues that must be addressed here in St. Louis. This, as you said earlier, is the tip of the iceberg, and it is an iceberg, and we do have some serious problems. I am a city resident. I live here on the South Side, and I chose to come back to St. Louis. When I left St. Louis, it was even more dangerous years ago. My wife gave me the ultimatum of move, get me out of here. I've got 2 black sons. and we were in North St. Louis. She said, "Get me out of here, or we're going to move without you." So I decided not to be divorced and
Good move.
and stick with my family.
Good move, my friend.
Yeah, and so we moved, but there is a lot of things that are going on here. So we'll start with the volleyball player, and unfortunately, my prayers are with her and her family. What, as a parent, and I know you're a parent, what a tragedy. And so, I'm not one to, I see a lot of people siding, and you and I talked a little bit about this via text earlier this week. Republicans are taking this side just because they got the R behind their name, and the Democrats are over here, and just because they have the D behind their name. I really, really, really think, that there's been some miscues, I feel, in that office, in her office, and some miscues. But I also strongly believe in the democratic process of she is an elected official. And she has not been elected once. She's been elected twice.
Yes.
If the people, I just believe this, just like I believe about, police control, local control. I think that should be that we, the citizens of St. Louis, and I am a resident of St. Louis, we should decide on who's going to be in control of our police department. I really believe that. I don't think that Jeff City, as red as it is, the folks in Jeff City should be making decisions for us here. Now, if proven that this mistake was made out of her office, which we're only getting one side. I'm hearing some lawyers. I have two or three friends that are lawyers that I talked to who said, absolutely not. A judge is the only one that can revoke the bond, right? And so what I'm saying is, I'm hearing both sides. I'm not just listening to one. I'm not just falling on one side. If someone, just like we had some politicians that were proven guilty of last year of taking money for doing work that they're supposed to be doing, they have to now pay for their crimes, right? And so I'm saying if that's the case, it comes out, but I don't think doing it like what we're doing, having it be decided by a judge or the people of St. Louis have spoke.
Keith, I agree with you completely. I agree with you completely that, and I've said that on the air. The fact is that she's been elected. People had a choice, and they chose Kimberly Gardner, and they chose the leadership that's in place. What I want to ask you is that as these things have developed, do you feel like leading, and we're still obviously a ways away from another election, but do you feel like there's a change happening within the voter base? Are people getting more involved, and they are going to have their voices heard? Are they as frustrated with some leadership or some decisions as others are? And as you said, use the democratic process to institute those changes. What are you feeling and hearing about just the way the people feel about the leadership in the city?
Well, and again, I
only
you
can only speak for you. I get it. Yeah.
Right. And so, but talking to people, there is frustration about the leadership in St. Louis because you can't wake up any day of the week and not something has happened in St. Louis City. Every single day, we have people that we live in the city. Some days our trash doesn't get picked up. That's a minor problem, but I'm just saying, you got that. You got the homelessness. You've got the crime. You've got people getting carjacked. So there's things that are going on, but these things have been going on for as long as I've been here, and I moved here in '89. These aren't new things, and so I think that what happens is people get a chance at the ballot box to vote for people who they think can make a change. But I'm not unrealistically thinking that change is going to come overnight with one politician, right? Or we got a new police chief. I don't think a new police chief is going to make a difference overnight. I think it's going to take time. It's going to be some processes and some systems put in place that supposedly he did wherever he came from and that it worked. He had some success. He had some people that didn't speak too highly of him, that thought, hey, good riddance. We'll see you later. We're glad you got him, and we don't. But for the most part, from what I've read, it seems like he's had a pretty decent track record. So I'm just waiting to see. I want to, but at some point, we have to ask ourselves: is it really about the leadership, or is it about things that are the roots of the problem, like education, poverty, joblessness? Are we looking at the whole picture, and what else can we do? I don't think, just like with mass shooters, I don't think that we're going to just solve this problem, by taking away. They talk about gun control. I saw the kids up there in Jeff City, and more control, strengthen up gun laws. Look, the people that are doing these crimes, this, that, and the other, do you think that they're registered gun owners and they go out to the? I mean, really, do you?
Right.
Do you think they have a conceal and carry permit?
Yeah. A new law isn't going to stop a criminal from breaking the law, because that's why they're called criminals.
That's why they're called criminals.
Yeah.
Even at the balloon release this week, I saw pictures in the Post-Dispatch that there were people running around with guns hanging out their pockets. We're the only country where we have more guns on the street than we do people.
Keith, I wish we had more time. We're up against the infamous hard break here, and I've got a million more things I want to talk to you about, so we're going to have to get you back on the show real soon. In the meantime, if people do want to follow you, do you have public social media or anything that people can follow?
Absolutely. At Keith Antone on everything, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Keith Antone.
All right.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'd love to get on. I wish I was on with Brother Ashcroft, so we could have had a little
he said the same
debate.
thing off the air. He said the same thing. He said he'd love to
He
have
absolutely did.
He really did. So we'll have to get you guys on together to have a little bit of a debate.
Yeah.
Keith, great stuff. Really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
All right, thank you.
All right, common sense financial advice from JT coming up next.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hi, Jen Wallner here. As a former foster child myself, I have always been an advocate for foster children in our community. Angels Arms is an amazing organization that provides a stable, nurturing, and loving family environment for these children. They ensure these children have not only the childhood they deserve, but the resources needed to become successful, thriving adults. I truly believe that this organization is transforming lives, and I could not be more proud to be a small part of that accomplishment. For more information or to get involved, visit angelsarms.org.
So I mentioned just a few minutes ago about how we moved in the last year or so, and one of the biggest, one of the few things that we miss about our old home, one of the few negatives that we have from that experience, is that we no longer have our amazing deck from STL Fenceworks that we absolutely loved, and we're already talking to the guys at STL Fenceworks about getting a deck put on to our new home. This company is just fantastic. If you need to have a deck replaced, if you need a fence, if you need a leisure space put in your backyard or at your home, STL Fenceworks is above the rest when it comes to anyone in St. Louis with their amazing work. You can schedule a free estimate now by calling them at 636-669-1608 or just visit them online at stlfenceworks.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov had a brief discussion at a top meeting of a group of 20 nations in New Delhi.
Currently assessed
The support for Ukraine was unwavering, dispelling any doubts the Russians may have had on the matter. In a recorded message to the UN's Human Rights Council, Blinken said Russia should be held accountable for its human rights abuses in Ukraine.
Holding ourselves to the same standards as we do every other government is particularly important at a time when human rights around the world are under assault. Perhaps nowhere more than in Russia's brutal war on Ukraine.
The last time Blinken and Lavrov met in person was in Geneva, over a year earlier, just before Russia's invasion. I'm Karen Chamas.
Also at townhall.com, Californians, they're trying to dig out of the snow following 2 winter storms. Correspondent Donna Warder has more.
Crews have been plowing the snow in San Bernardino County, but it could take more than a week to reach some areas. Residents are dealing with as much as 7 feet of snow. Officer D.C. Williams with the California Highway Patrol told KABC that Interstate 5 in the Tejon Pass near Los Angeles had to be shut down for the second time in less than a week.
The 10 years I've been up here, I don't think we've closed it like this back to back.
Emergency crews have been shuttling food and medicine to mountain communities that have been left stranded. I'm Donna Warder.
At his 16th parole hearing, a California panel has denied parole for Robert F. Kennedy assassin Sirhan Sirhan. Sirhan's lawyer says the parole board decided the 78-year-old prisoner still lacks insight into what caused him to shoot the senator. On Wall Street, the Dow finishing up 327 points, the Nasdaq up 83. More at townhall.com.
Relief Factor, pain relief that's natural, pain relief that works, and pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
How long does it take to tackle a home project? With Angie, you could cross it off your list before this ad is over. Just tell us what you need. Indoor or outdoor, repair or redesign, and we handle the rest, sending a top pro to get it done. You don't have to lift a finger, except to tap the screen or click the mouse. Plus, Angie is free to use. So bring us your next home project, and we'll bring it home. Download the app or go to Angie.com. That's ANGI.com to get started.
The Justice Department has determined that Donald Trump can be sued over the January 6th riot. Greg Clugston with that report.
DOJ lawyers say that even though a president enjoys broad legal latitude to communicate to the public, Donald Trump can be held liable in court for the riot at the U.S. Capitol. At the same time, the Justice Department cautioned that the court must not saddle a president with meritless lawsuits. 2 Capitol police officers and 11 Democratic House members have filed conspiracy lawsuits against the former president. Trump's lawyers have argued that he is protected by absolute immunity. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter returning to the NFL scouting combine after turning himself into Athens police on Wednesday night, posting a combined bond of $4,000 on charges of reckless driving and racing in relation to a fatal crash that killed a teammate and team staffer. Breaking news at townhall.com. SpaceX launching 4 astronauts to the International Space Station for NASA. The crew includes the first person from the Arab world going up for a month-long stay. The Falcon rocket bolted from Florida's Kennedy Space Center earlier today. A notorious assassin will remain behind bars.
A California panel has denied parole for Robert F. Kennedy assassin Sirhan Sirhan. Sirhan's lawyer, Angela Berry, says the parole board decided the 78-year-old prisoner still lacks insight into what caused him to shoot the senator and presidential candidate in 1968. Berry says she believes Sirhan has shown that awareness, however, and that his psychiatrists have said for decades that he's unlikely to reoffend. 2 years ago, a different California parole board had voted to release Sirhan, but Governor Gavin Newsom rejected the decision. Keith Peters reporting.
More of these stories at townhall.com. I'm John Scott.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm News 4 meteorologist Kristen Cornett with your first alert forecast. Mostly sunny this afternoon with a high of 55. Rain moves in this evening. It will be heavy overnight. It gets windy as well as we drop to 42 degrees by tomorrow morning. And then on Friday, heavy rain continues to be likely. Temperatures falling during the day, 38 degrees during the afternoon. Also quite windy with wind gusts up to 45 miles per hour. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Kristen Cornett.
The team that brought conservative talk radio to St. Louis is back. This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. Mike Ferguson, Tim Jones, Dan Bongino, Tony Colombo, Vic Porcelli, Katie Fitzpatrick, Chris Arps, Ken Williams, Larry Connors, Gabe Pfeiffer, Joe Pags, Randy Tobler. Talk radio made in St. Louis for St. Louis. 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Zero Res is coming to my house. It's funny. I was just literally right before the show texting with the folks at Zero Res because they are going to be at our house next week, and it is a service, a company that we have relied on multiple times to bring the Colombo home back to life, whether it be carpets or furniture or tile, upholstery, basically any surface in your home can be cleaned by Zero Res. And right now, you can do what we're doing and get the jump on spring cleaning by calling Zero Res today and telling them that you want the Colombo special. Because right now, if you do that, you can get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $119. Plus, they'll throw in a free hallway and take $75 off an air duct cleaning. This is an incredible deal. Not only is your carpet in your home a huge investment, it's also the biggest air filter in your home. So if it hasn't been cleaned recently, professionally cleaned by Zero Res, then you are just recycling all the dander and bacteria and germs, and you're just over and over breathing in that stuff in your home all the time. And again, after a long winter, as we finally get into the spring season here, it's a perfect time to get that jump on spring cleaning and take advantage of the Colombo special. 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 plus a free hallway and $75 off an air duct cleaning if you would like to get that as well. All you have to do is call 314-474-2020 or book online anytime at ZeroResSTL.com. Spell it forward or backwards, it spells the same. Zero Res. Welcome back to Colombo and Katie on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. What a 2 o'clock hour.
Holy moly.
What a show.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Flying by.
Whiplash.
No kidding. I said to Katie off the air, I was like, I felt like I was just like speeding down like in a race or like falling out of an airplane. Or it's just like, I can't stop. I can't slow down. This is crazy. But great stuff. Great stuff in that first hour from America's favorite liberal, Keith Antone, and also the Secretary of State of Missouri, Jay Ashcroft, who started the show with us. If you missed any of that first hour, you don't have to. You never have to miss anything that happens here on Colombo and Katie because you can subscribe to our podcast. And you can get our podcast on basically any podcast platform. So whatever one your favorite is, Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and many, many more, just subscribe to the Colombo and Katie Show because we put the show out as a podcast shortly after we get off the air every day. And that way you never have to miss anything that happens here. Like, as we continue to go through this star-studded show. Oh, I should mention this because we did promote that Christian Day Talk was going to be on today. as usual with Christian Day Talk, not as usual, but as happens from time to time, he's an important guy. He is part of the White House press corps. So his schedule is not always at his control. It's at the control of Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre and other people involved in the administration. So, we love to have that connection directly to the White House, but sometimes it gets in our way. So I think that Christian is going to be joining us tomorrow afternoon live from the White House, so definitely keep it here for that. And right now, as he does every week at this time, it is time to get our weekly dose of common sense financial advice from Jason Thornton, JT from Pocket Watching with JT. JT, always great to talk with you, buddy. How's it going?
Doing great.
So, Pocket Watching, of course, you can hear every Friday night at 8 o'clock here on News Talk STL. You can also check out the Pocket Watching with JT YouTube channel. So, you do the show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on YouTube, but we call Friday the Super Show, and that is the one that is also here on News Talk STL. Monday and Wednesdays also start at 8 o'clock, though, right? Just like the Friday show. Am I correct about that, JT?
Yes, absolutely. And then we also do standalone videos where I'm answering questions from viewers. All they got to do is go to my website, pocketwatcher.net, click the Ask JT button, and I'll do the best I can to get you an answer.
There you go. And, we've talked a lot on these Thursday hits about tax season, and that's just getting hotter and hotter as we're kind of right in the middle of that right now. And, of course, every week, Pocket Watching has sort of a theme. So I'm sure you're going to be talking about taxes a little bit this week, but what else? What else is the big topic of the week?
Yeah, the main focus is we want to talk about people's goals. We're heading deeper and deeper into a recession, and I want people to call in or go to the website, ask me questions about how you can actually accomplish your financial goals. A lot of people, they just don't have any financial goals. Living day to day is hard enough, but if you don't actually plan for the things you want, they most likely not going to happen.
And if you're living day to day, I would make the argument, and I'm not a financial advisor like you are, so tell me if I'm right or not, but I would make the argument that if you're living day to day, paycheck to paycheck, you need to have financial goals probably more than anybody, just to make sure that you're not putting yourself or your family in financial danger.
You are absolutely correct. People would normally have it backwards. They say, oh, I need a financial advisor when I hit the lottery and I make $1 million. Or if my great uncle leaves me $100,000, that's when I need a financial advisor. And yes, that is true. You probably do. But the worse off you are financially is probably the most important time for you to get a financial plan, for you to get your stuff in order, because the least money you have, the more important it is to manage it. It's like if you're stuck out in the middle of the desert and all you have is one bottle of water, you need to make sure you're managing it best.
Yeah.
JT, something happened to me whenever I turned 30, and that was organizing my finances turned fun. I don't know when, I don't know why, and I don't know exactly when this hit, but when I turned 30, organizing all of my finances just turned into an awesome activity with my husband. And I'm wondering, when people come to you, especially around their 30s, because they are starting to accumulate some money, they are trying to figure out where they need to save and what their needs are against their wants.
You're accumulating money?
Yeah, well, I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to ask. I'm trying to do it. But when people come to you, maybe around their 30s, because it's their first experience having a little bit of extra cash, do they seem excited? Do they seem like this is the first time I've been able to organize my finances in this kind of way?
It's 50-50. So 50% of the people, yes, they're excited. They feel like they really got a hold of their financial life, and they're just trying to figure out, okay, what should I be doing? So half of the people who come in, yes, they are excited. The other half is people who are basically in a situation like, hey, I'm throwing up my hands. I did everything that I could do. I admit that I need some help. And there's nothing wrong with admitting that you need some help. I've never drank alcohol in my life. It's just not something that I do. But I am aware that if you go to an AA meeting, you stand up and you raise your hand and you say, hey, my name is so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic, and I need some help. There's a lot of people out here who have bad financial habits that are keeping them in a very low-income situation, and you just need some help.
So I recommend every week that you tune in to Pocket Watching with JT at 8 o'clock on Friday nights here on News Talk STL to get your own questions answered, hear other people's questions, get the financial advice from JT. But what would be one sort of little nugget, one of the things that you're going to talk about tomorrow and through the week about planning? Like what's a good first step or something that maybe is a common sense thing that people just don't think about when they are trying to put together a plan?
This may sound odd, but putting it down on paper.
Yeah.
You want to actualize it, because a lot of people have a lot of ideas roaming around in their head. They're trying to keep track of everything, but there's just something powerful about actually putting it down on paper that makes people actually take action.
Mm-hmm. That's such a great point. I think that rings true for everything. I think it's such a good point because, like, even with my show prep, even with stories, I could just write little bullet points and I could say, like, Biden's gross nurse story. And, like, that'd be the whole, my show prep, and know that I know what that story is and I can talk about it. But I actually write out the whole story of what happened. So I think that exercise of putting it on paper just makes it more real. And it just makes it more impactful going forward. So I think that is a great piece of advice, because that sort of makes that happen in your brain. Another thing that you need to put in your brain is just the fact that you can listen to and get this great advice each and every week from JT on Pocket Watching with JT on the YouTube channel and here on Friday nights at 8 o'clock. And as always, JT, for folks that haven't had a chance to check out the show yet, to remind them what it's all about.
Absolutely. This is a call-in financial talk show, your opportunity to contact a certified financial planner, get your money question answered, and I'm going to do the best I can to help you out.
Great stuff. Jason Thornton, JT from Pocket Watching with JT. Always great to talk with you, my friend, and we'll be listening tomorrow night. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Great stuff there as always. Okay. What do you want to talk about? I got some stuff, but I don't know. Do you got something to
I do
talk
have
about?
something.
Well, you go first.
Okay.
I don't know what to do.
The House Ethics Committee announced Thursday it is launching an investigation, this is heavy, into embattled Republican Representative George Santos.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about George Santos?
It's a great question. Listen, one thing that Keith Antone said, and like I said, go back, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, or getting our podcast so you can hear all these conversations. But one thing that I completely agree with him on, and I've said this before, I don't like Kim Gardner at all. I think she is bad. I think she's dangerous. I think she makes our city worse. However, she was elected, as Keith Antone said, twice. And overturning the vote of the people is a tough thing to go. Look, I won't miss her if she's gone. And I kind of like the idea of a workaround that people can still get crimes prosecuted if she won't do it. But removing an elected official from office, they need to do something really like black and white, like break the rules of their job or commit a crime before I'm really on board with overturning the results of an election, even if it's somebody that I just can't stand.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to ever be used against me the other way.
And this guy just makes us all look bad.
So that's why this is why this gets dicey, because this guy is a liar. He's clearly a liar. He's misrepresented his past.
For sure. Lies all the time. Embellishes.
But he was also elected. So it's like, you got to prove. So it's a tough one. Do I think that he belongs in Congress? Absolutely not. But again, if the people put him there,
then what do you
got it. Yeah. I mean, if you can prove that they didn't know ahead of time, about his lies, then maybe you got something there. But It's a tough one. It's a tough one because overturning elections is
not easy.
It shouldn't be easy.
Right.
It needs to not be easy.
So the New York congressman, who obviously lies about his resume and personal life, has been drawing deep scrutiny in Congress. The bipartisan leaders of the committee announced the panel had voted unanimously to establish an investigative subcommittee into these allegations. The panel voted to take action on Tuesday. The investigation appears to be far-reaching. It seeks to determine whether Representative George Santos may have engaged in unlawful activity with respect to his 2022 congressional campaign. So the investigation...
Now, there you go. If you can prove that he committed a crime, that he violated a crime while running, then
different story.
Yep, then I'm okay with it.
That's what I said.
Then great. Then investigate him, prove that he did it wrong. Or if if you've learned something now that makes him ineligible to run again in the future, then enforce that. But just to kick him out, it's tough. It's a tough thing.
So the last thing, the probe will review whether Santos failed to properly disclose required information on statements filed with the House, violated federal conflict of interest laws in connection with his role in a firm providing services, and or engaged in sexual misconduct towards individuals seeking his employment in his congressional office. So those are the three things that they're investigating.
Yeah, and again, if he broke the law, certainly if he's guilty of some kind of sexual assault or misconduct of any way.
I didn't even know that.
Then get him out in a heartbeat. All right, only got a few minutes left here before we turn things over to the Tim Jones and Chris Sharp Show. Should we lighten it up?
Yeah.
Should we have a little fun here at the end?
Let's go.
This, I always like to see people's reaction to this story. It happens, they put this out every year, and I feel like every year people are just shocked at the answer. Tooth Fairy payouts. The Tooth Fairy is making more money. I don't know if this is inflation related or what's going on with that her operation. The Tooth Fairy is making more money than ever. You want to know what the national average for a tooth is? You're gonna have to be
one tooth.
You're gonna have to be dealing with this. Yes, one tooth, not a mouthful.
Not
of teeth.
two teeth.
Not a mouthful.
You can lose it.
Can you? Do people lose two teeth? I mean, I'm sure it's possible, but I don't know.
Maybe not at the same time.
My kids
but in
never
a week,
never lost two teeth at once.
I think I've lost two teeth in a week.
Yeah, the old two front teeth thing.
Two front teeth.
Yeah.
I would say one tooth is averaging
what do you
$4.
think,
$4.
What do you think Maeve's gonna make when she gets to that point?
$1. $1 is for the first tooth. I'll go all out for. Me and the Tooth Fairy will
The
negotiate.
Tooth Fairy will
yes.
you'll work out with the Tooth Fairy what it pays.
But the second tooth, the Tooth Fairy better be saying $1.
$6.23. That's the national average right now for a tooth.
No way. I thought $4 was
Tooth Fairy's
steep.
got something going.
$6?
Mm-hmm. Kids in the South are the biggest payouts. $6.59 per tooth is the average in the South. And the west of the United States, it's $6.25. In the Northeast, it's $6.14. And in the Midwest, here in the Midwest, we are the lowest. Our teeth are the least valuable to the Tooth Fairy, apparently, with $5.63
That
a
is
tooth.
still very valuable, it seems. My goodness gracious. I think the Tooth Fairy, whenever I was growing up, it was probably a $1.
Over the past
She had
25
$1.
years, the Tooth Fairy payout has surged 379%. It's gone from $1.30 to $6.23 in 25 years.
How can it be? How can this be? Inflation
Good
must
work
be
if you can get it, if you're the Tooth Fairy.
I know, my gosh.
She's doing it.
Sitting around, drinking her martini, saying, what a life.
She's making it happen.
Goodness.
One more here. Are gender reveals are they still? Why?
They're still happening.
Why are they not
Still a
gone?
thing. I don't know. I think the hype.
Here's a dumb one that just happened a couple weeks ago that got some attention online. There was a gender reveal party, and the dad. This isn't a bad one. Nobody got killed or hurt or anything.
Thank God.
It's just dumb.
Mm-hmm.
The dad made the whole party go into the bathroom, and then he flushed the toilet. He put the he colored the water. So he made all the people, and it's just like a regular-sized bathroom at a regular house.
Yeah.
So all these people,
like 50 people,
cram into this bathroom so the dad can flush the toilet and reveal the blue water because it was a boy.
That's disgusting.
Like, guys, what?
We don't need to take it to that level.
Are they still? People are still doing these things?
People are still doing them. Now, it's not the fireworks and lighting the California wildfires happening. It's not like that anymore. But it's still like...
It's for the parents, right? It's all about look at me. It has nothing to do with the baby or the kid.
No.
I hate that we have... Look, baby showers and wedding showers are great.
Fine.
Bachelorette parties, bachelor parties, great.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need a bachelorette my friend's bachelorette party. Then my family's bachelorette party. Then we're gonna have a wedding shower. Then we're gonna have an engagement party.
Huge.
Yeah. And then a baby's
now.
coming along. And then now we're gonna have a baby shower and a push party and a gender reveal.
Yes.
And it's like, cut.
One thing. You get one or two things.
Yeah.
Whenever you're getting married. One thing for baby.
You're not the main character.
Nope.
You're not the main character. This is not your world.
Boy, what a lesson that is when you have a baby. What a wake-up call that is. You want to talk about a gender reveal party being selfish.
I can't even imagine. I can't even put myself in the mindset of Christine looking at me when we were having one of our kids and saying, what day do you want to have our gender reveal party? And do you want to go buy some dye for the toilet water? What's happening?
Yeah, David was a big no. I asked him, like, do you want to do that?
way.
He's like, no, that is so embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's so embarrassing.
I agree. I mean, baby shower, celebrate, do all that. Get your presents. You definitely deserve them and need them. But we don't need 5 different freaking parties for every
occasion.
All right.
I agree.
That's going to do it for Colombo and Katie. Back tomorrow at 2 o'clock. In the meantime, make sure you're subscribed to the Colombo and Katie YouTube channel and the Colombo and Katie podcast. We put the show out as a podcast shortly after we get off the air on just about every podcast platform, so you never have to miss anything that happens here on the show. Just be subscribed to the Colombo and Katie podcast and keep it here for the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Those gentlemen will get you through the rest of your Thursday afternoon. Thank you so much for supporting us and listening to us here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
So many ways to listen to News Talk STL.
Join the conversation. All you have to do is say,
Hey Alexa, play News Talk STL.
Welcome to News Talk STL, conservative talk radio for St. Louis.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
So now the FBI director, Christopher Wray, admits, yes, the FBI has for quite some time now decided the origins of COVID were a potential lab incident in Wuhan. And he says, we were looking into various things like COVID that they might be working on and that could get in the wrong hands, a hostile nation. That would be China. Should someone tell the FBI director that's China? But he won't really answer additional questions. He said, there's some details I can't share. They're classified. Why? The American public deserves to have some answers, and you say it came out of China? Is it because you know they were trying to develop a bioweapon and you're not going to tell us? Why would you not? Congressman Jim Banks, Republican of Indiana, was questioning a former deputy national security advisor and asking, he said, were they using a bioweapons research project? Is that what happened? The answer from the former deputy national security officer said, we know they were experimenting using U.S. technology to work on viruses, ones that have been engineered. So when are we going to get a real answer, if ever?
For more, listen to the Larry Connors USA Daily Report tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
I want to share something special with you. I've told you how Wellington Environmental works to keep hospitals, schools, businesses safe for their patients, students, clients, employees. Wellington can do the same for you. Perfect example. A relative went to the basement, almost knocked over by the smell. A sewer line had broken. A call to Wellington, a crew was dispatched. First thing, make the home safe. Then clean up the mess. Truly clean it up. Now, I'm telling you this because I want the best for you. Wellington Environmental. Here's the number, 314-644-4930. 644-4930. AAA rating with the Better Business Bureau. 644-4930. Wellington Environmental. Your world. Cleaner, better, safer. Be well with Wellington.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Dr. Tobler, today I wanted to talk, if you don't mind, about drug prices. You okay with that?
Street drugs or pharmaceuticals? What are you talking about?
I don't know. What do you got?
What are you looking for? I don't wear trench